What do we think the biggest misconceptions are around GDPR at the moment, Liz?
A lot of the work I do is with small businesses, small to medium-sized enterprises, and some of them have a misconception which is it doesn't apply to me still. Particularly in business to business, and the ICO have clarified that relatively recently, and new guidelines last week about the difference between when you really need consent and when legitimate interest will do, and what the differences are between those things, which is all rather late to help people trying to make good decisions, good quality decisions for their business. So there are some misconceptions around whether it applies and what it really means. But I think a big one is fear. I think there's a huge amount of fear in small businesses particularly, possibly in big businesses too, that it means, well, I probably just won't do anything then. I'll just stop, I'll just hold off. I'll just pause, let the whole thing sort of settle down, take my time, see how everybody else reacts. And I think that's a horrible place to be, because as you quite rightly say, this is intended to be a good thing. It's intended to be progressive and empowering on the sides of both the suppliers and the customers. But I think there's some of the language has been really unhelpful, not just from the ICO itself, but from the industry that has sprung up around the GDPR that has really stoked the fires of fear around what you must do and what you could do and what you may try. And I think some of that has been quite destructive, actually.
It's interesting because I think there are a number of instances where people's belief, particularly in SMEs, is, well, if we don't get this right and I don't engage, we can't do marketing, full stop, which is dangerous, I think. Well, what's your view of that?
Yeah, and I think one of to build on the misconceptions part is that it's not a one-time exercise, right? It's not that you'll get compliant today. I think the biggest thing is going to be, how do you continue to be able to report, continue to be able to track some of this. So I think it will sort of need a systemic behavioral change, and it's not about getting in consultants right now who will in 3 months clean up, get you on board, and then you're off and running. So it has to become a way of your work life, and I think that's where a lot of focus needs to be.
And longer term, how are you planning to incorporate that into how you and your teams think about it?
I think it's fundamentally, at least from a marketing standpoint, some of our core practices and our planning principles is where we are putting in some changes, right? As to how you earlier used to plan a campaign and now how you would do it, right? Or how earlier you would interact with product to figure out what's the kind of cross-sell you want to do and now how you would do it. So I think it's a sort of changing the rhythm of the business is where we've been focusing a lot on.
And do you have a similar view, Prelini?
It's interesting because we're approaching it two ways. The one is to be able to give advice out to our customers to help them become compliant, and then changes that we're making as a business. Interestingly, we ran a webinar last week just on the topic of GDPR, as many organisations today are building websites, making sure that we're compliant in different ways. But there was over 2,500 people that attended this webinar, and I think it's one of the most visited webinar that we've had in history, just of even live attendees, because it's such a hot topic right now. It's a hot topic because of fear. It's a hot topic because of the unknown, and people out there are wanting to know what they can do and learn from each other as well. Even roundtables like this is giving the ability to say, as a marketing leader, what are you doing? What are you doing? What is it that we can think about doing? So I think it's going to be constantly evolution. It's going to be constant learnings in place, and it's not a one size that fits all. It's not going to be, we've set our process, we've done it, that's it. It's going to mean as we go forward, we continue to better those experiences and we learn from each other to have those better experiences.